Does your average music fan unknowingly worship at the altar of mediocre music? Hey neighbor, welcome back to Beyond ARTV. On this episode of The Think Tank, the show where I take something that's been on my mind in the world of music and turn it into a video conversation, I want to talk about the lower standards that I feel like music fans have had for the past couple of decades, and even dating back to the birth of fandom culture. Think the British invasion in the 1960s in America. With the dawning of rock and roll came fandom, and with fandom came the wanting to please the person over the music, and that's where the question starts to get a little bit complicated. Immediate disclaimer that I need to put on this video is that some of the conversations we're gonna have are surrounding artists that maybe you love. So if I happen to use somebody as an example and you're a fan of that band, just know that I'm not trying to come across gatekeepy. That's not my intention with this, or to say that somebody has superior music taste to somebody else. It's more so a conversation around the slippage that I've seen from certain artists, certain genres perhaps, and the willingness of fans so quickly to accept that. Imagine you're at your local fair. Everybody's having a good time, the sheep are buying in the background, and the goats are quacking, and whatever else happens at those crazy local fairs. You catch a whiff of something heavenly, and your olfactory senses lead you straight to the pie tasting contest, in which you take the bite of the first piece of pie and say, "That's it? That's all I need?" What I was so desperately trying to tell you indirectly with that pie analogy is that you wouldn't go to a pie tasting contest and only sample one piece. So why would we go to music and maybe say, oh, here's an album that came out in the first quarter of the year. I've decided that this is my favorite just because it's an artist that I've listened to for the past 10 years. They're my favorite band. I only listen to a few others, so automatically album of the year. From the outside looking in, especially for people who are active in the music community, it can feel really frustrating, especially when you get comments from people saying, oh, this is album of the year, hype culture, everything else like that. Haven't even heard it. I've only heard the 3 singles, but this is AOTY. I shrug my shoulders at that part of the equation, but it also just kind of brings up the recurring theme with this video is people accepting just what's in front of them, what's given to them, instead of seeking out something new. Perhaps it's just, oh, this band that I've been listening to for the past 30 years of my life, I guess I will continue sticking with them, and bands that tour with them, artists that are similar to them, because that's what I've always known. So right there, I've just answered the main question of the video. Do music fans accept mediocrity? And the answer is of course, because it's the most palatable, it's the most universally speaking, and those songs tend to reach the most people. And sometimes those aren't exactly your typical music enthusiasts that are checking out new underground artists. Sometimes I make the mistake of going to the comments under a new song release on YouTube, and I'm looking to see what fans are saying, if they're excited about it, if I'm excited about it, or if I'm really having conflicted feelings, to see what others are saying in the conversation. And 9 times out of 10, I would say 9.9 out of 10, it's always people just praising it like it's the next best thing ever because it was made by somebody that they love and adore. I'm realizing that this sounds like I'm stating the obvious, and it does seem so obvious from the outside looking in. It's just like, oh, broaden your scope a little bit. Like, you know, zoom out, zoom in, whatever you need to do to find the music that is speaking to you. I think there's a difference between preference and there actually being an issue with the quality that's just kind of a given fact and not really an opinion. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder and all, but there seems to be a line out there where music fans just have this big mutual disagreement that's not really a hostile thing. It's just kind of the people that feel like they're in the know and then the others that just consume what they know. I'm not at all trying to imply that there aren't times in my own life where I don't just stay in a little bubble because maybe I'm going through something or I'm in a certain mood and I just really am feeling a certain genre or a certain band, okay? I have my Nickelback phase occasionally. I was talking to my wife about this phenomenon, about mediocrity in music, or what is good or what is objectively bad, is there such a thing? And she was telling me that it feels like more than ever it's hard to know how to feel because it's like, oh, is this good or is it derivative of something from the past? past that we've already heard, because I feel like we're at a point where sampling and just echoing the halls of decades before us, like the 80s, the 90s, and so many songs on the Hot 100 last year utilized this, and it really got out of control. But at the end of the day, she was saying it was hard to know how to feel because it just seems like a bunch of things are running together, especially in like top 40, and many bands are just riding the coattails of others. And while there are so many fresh ones out there, they're just not getting eyes and ears on them like they deserve. The idea of music being a melting pot has kind of gone away and become a lot more homogenized for as diverse as it claims to be at this point. I don't think I'm making a revolutionary statement by claiming that top 40 music has become redundant, because again, people have been saying that since the dawn of Billboard. Maybe it's just nostalgia giving me these rose-tinted glasses when I look back to the 2000s, but the charts at that time were blooming. It was all over the place. There was genuinely pop punk, hip-hop, reggae, pop music, electronic, everything was crossing over to the Billboard Hot 100. Bands, artists, R&B, rock, metal, it really didn't matter. Everybody had a chance, and at this point, it just feels a lot more mediocre, homogenized, watered down, and other genres trying to be other things that they're not. And I understand and do enjoy the conversation around artists like Rina Sawayama, who blur the lines between genres, but at a certain point, it stops being fun when everything is starting to sound like the next thing that comes before and after it. Recently, I was thinking about some of the new releases like Tell Me I'm Okay by All Time Low and Miley Cyrus's Flowers, and I myself listen to songs generally without looking at any of the hype, comments, anything like that, just to kind of reserve for my own judgments and not be influenced or swayed. I listened to both of those songs while I was on my honeymoon, expecting something really solid, but coming away just feeling completely underwhelmed, especially with Miley. I'm thinking, well, here's an artist that I know can do so much more, and on this track, her voice is just kind of subdued. It's fine, it's serviceable, but the lyrics are so basic. I love me, I'm doing this for me. It's like a few steps away from leaning into Meghan Trainor territory, and I walked out of it feeling like, well, it was fine. I wouldn't get angry if I heard it in the background, but is this really more than okay, only to look online and oh my god, it's the coming of Christ? Either that or it was just a mediocre Miley single. I would take a million Mother's Daughters for as weird as they are, or even a Slide Away that just do the past a little bit better with an interesting lyrical flair that felt more personal to her. This is what I'm talking about when it feels like, do music fans just accept that? Is that okay with them? And I guess, am I being a gatekeeper or an elitist for feeling like it is mediocre? Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Think Tank. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe for the love of music. Check out some recent videos on screen now that I think you'll like if you enjoyed this one. Other than that, my socials are in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on Beyond ARTV.